There are a few ways in which you can list your products on Amazon. Listing is a process by which you put your product up for sale on Amazon, and it makes it accessible for people to come and buy the product. Traditionally, there were two methods. One is the normal method, and the second is something called a flat file upload. Flat file is a fancy word for an Excel sheet template which you need to fill out and upload. So the normal method is that once you have your Amazon seller account, you go to inventory, add inventory, and then Amazon, depending on the category of your product, Amazon will give you a few fields that you can manually type in and enter. Typically, those fields include the UPC code of the product title, the product bullet points, product images, product dimensions, color, materials, etc. Again, depending on the product category, you have an option to put some fields that are required, like the ones that I said. And then there are ones that are optional but advisable, where you have backend SEO keywords that you could add. You could have more package information. You can, and if your products is anything to do with pesticides, you can put that information as well. If there are any chemicals involved, you can put that information as well. And so that is the easiest way, arguably, to set up a listing. And once you type in everything, you press submit. There is sometimes a review process that Amazon goes through, where it makes sure that all the legal formalities are fulfilled, all the restrictions, all the ingredient labels. Again, depending on the category, for example, food products, there are certain ways in which you need to list your products and the details submitted. So that's one way. The advantage of this is that anyone can do it. It's perhaps arguably the easiest way to list your product. The con with this product, the negative aspect of this, is that at a later date, if you wish to change your listings, it gets really hard. It gets really hard to list product variations or different variations of your product. It's possible, but not easy. And sometimes we have observed that when people upload a listing through this method, it gets very hard to change at a later date. And sometimes some of the data entered through this method does not get reflected on the front end. And so it's very frustrating to do that. The second, and perhaps the most commonly used, at least by Amazon experts and agencies, is something called a flat file upload, where you tell Amazon that, hey, I'm going to upload a product in this particular category. Amazon will give you an Excel sheet with multiple sheets to fill out and then upload it in their own platform. And usually this fields include other ones that you would see in the regular normal method, where you need to enter the SKU name, the UPC codes, the product title, description, yada yada yada, and you fill it up, you upload it, and usually Amazon tells you whether there are any errors in the file that you've uploaded. And if there are no errors, it gets reflected in the front end, and the product gets listed. The advantage is that once you know how to do it, it gets easy. At a later date, if you wish to make any changes to any of these listings, you can just use the same template to make the change. And then you can keep a record of what you have updated. And typically, again, we have seen that when people use flat file to upload new products, the changes are typically reflected much faster, and edits can be made much easier. The con is that there is a learning curve to this. It's not easy. It could get a little intimidating and frustrated. There is definitely a learning curve in understanding how the flat files work. And we have seen that the structure of the flat file keeps changing, and hence at a later date, if you wish to make any changes, it may not be as easy. But compared to the first way of doing it, the flat file upload is the best. The third way, which we have created at Xena Foresight, is to use Foresight to list and optimize listings, which is essentially means using APIs, or Amazon Application Program Interfaces, where instead of using flat files, you can use our platform. And there are a few other listing platforms as well, where you can enter the data, and the data gets reflected on the Amazon Seller Central. I can speak about Xena Foresight because some of the advantages is that it gets reflected pretty quickly. Changes can be made in real time. And almost always there is very little error that comes, because we make sure that our systems have set up in a place where all the details that you enter adhere to Amazon's guidelines. For example, there are some keywords, there are some words, phrases that you cannot use to upload, which you may use when you're using the first two methods. But if you use our platform, we make sure that it is not the case, because we screen it before we upload it. And also, just an added note, usually when we upload images through the first method or make changes to the images, it sometimes is not reflected or takes a lot of time. But through our platform, it gets reflected almost immediately, because Amazon's APIs interface directly with their backend system. And that is why I believe the changes happen much faster, and hence it is much more easier to manage. So these are three methods in which you can list or modify your listings on Amazon.